is incorrect. Override denied. Your password is incorrect. Override denied. Program activated.
Welcome to another Username Nerd podcast. My name is Mike Hewitt, and with me I have always Tim Hewitt. Sorry. And with me we have two special guests. We just did a kind of interview with you guys. We have Jashin and Ben Watkins.
Correct.
And yes,
and
I'm
once
so
again,
sorry.
you have Tim
I said it
Hewitt
right
there
off.
too, yeah.
And then Tim Hewitt. So we did a bunch of steampunk stuff. I definitely want to talk about Brass Engine Productions. I want to talk about that. So much to talk about. But I want you guys to talk a little bit about just tell us a little bit about what you do.
Kind of introduce yourselves and then give us a little background on yourselves.
Tell us a little bit about Steamwork and tell us a little bit about Brass Engine Productions and just a short synopsis.
Wow, that's
a lot of instructions
there's
right off the bat.
There's a lot.
Yes, I know. Yes.
That I could say. And trying to come up with something that's like nice and condensed into a short synopsis, really?
Just always think faster and funnier.
Faster and funnier. Okay. So yes, I'm Ben Watkins, the owner of Brass Engine Productions, and back in 2013 we produced a show called Steamworks and Shadows. It was a steampunk web series. It ran 9 episodes. We have done a couple of new films since then, and we are currently working on a few in post-production and production. And then Brass Engine itself also does lots of different things like costuming and YouTube videos. We do film competitions, and we've started making some comical short videos, and we have several new YouTube series that we've sort of dreamed up and expanding the number of genres that we're really hitting, and just sort of using our experience to do more and just have fun with it.
Mm-hmm. We've been kind of...
What? You didn't let...
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Man, you skipped right over.
Sorry.
It's okay. I try to ignore her, too.
This is a podcast. You can't see the look I'm giving him right now.
Love you.
I met up with these people in 2011. We were a bunch of nerds that hung out, basically, and this all sort of grew out of the steampunk stuff. Mm-hmm. My background is that I went to the School of Journalism at the University of Missouri, and I have a background in media production. And so I mainly do the video editing and some of the camera work, and then a little bit of the assistant directing.
Can I have a backstory, too?
A little bit?
Can I have a little backstory? You got a backstory. I want a
You
backstory.
Is he allowed? Is he allowed?
Very good at directing. No, he's not allowed. We'll
okay, all right.
You are very good at directing. You should just. I'm fine with her just coming on and directing.
Well, she pretty much,
everything.
She had a lot of good. Both of you guys actually had a lot of good feedback for the video that we just made.
We're going to be in contact a lot. So,
we'll discuss our rates later.
So we just made a video about steampunk, but I know we wanted to talk a little bit more about their actual production company, the Brass Engine. So
yes, and we've been just torn in so many different ways with Planet Comic-Con, just getting so much ready for that when it came down to it, I know that sounds horrible, but I watched some of the Steamworks and Shadows, but I watched a lot of the Brass Engine stuff, and I loved the Brass Engine stuff, and I wanted to go through the storyline, but just have not had the time. And so definitely right now I want to talk about the Brass Engine stuff. I love the 4 short films. They're great. If you could talk us a little bit about them. I watched them and I was like, man, I'm really impressed. And the comedy ones were good because it's very hard to pull off comedy. And I laughed. My wife laughed, and it's very hard to get my wife to laugh. So
that's a big compliment.
I know.
It is very hard to get her
very hard.
She's right here. Oh my gosh.
She snuck up on you, dude.
Golly. And I'm sitting there and she laughed. And she laughed, what was it? The chip. that
Yeah.
she left twice,
Yeah.
and I'm like, wow, okay, this is great. So
A lot of credit goes to just how rubber Larry's face is.
That's very true.
You could just manipulate him like clay.
Chip was a 24-hour challenge. So we would receive via email, and it's a international competition, so it's very, very competitive. And we had 24 hours from when they emailed the information, which is a prop and a prop, a theme, and an action. And you had to use those 3 elements, create a film that's about 3 minutes in 24 hours. And so it was crazy.
Yeah.
We knew our locations, and we knew who we wanted to be lead characters versus supporting characters. We had basically everything worked out except for story. And so we had 24 hours to do that. Unfortunately, Jashin didn't have time to join us on that one.
I was living in Indiana at the time.
Right. So coming in for a 24-hour competition would have been quite an ordeal for her. But I had a good team around me. We had a meeting as soon as we got the information, and we worked out the story, and we had a dry erase board with all of our brainstorm ideas on it, which is on Facebook right now, if anybody wants to actually see our process, and where we went from taking a prop, which was a cookie, an action, which was
Unexpected visit.
that was the theme.
Oh.
Theme was an unexpected visitor, and and the action was
Vegetables? Watering a plant.
watering a plant.
Which they stretched that to its
I
limit.
did stretch that a little bit with him washing a head of cabbage, but I thought it worked.
Gotcha. Okay. I was wondering. I saw the 24 challenge. I didn't know how that worked. Now, if you really want to geek out, I am a programmer, and we have a 24-hour challenge too. And we sit in a sweaty gym with a bunch of guys.
Oh, that's right. I remember
And
talking about
there are a few girls. They're still sweaty. All programmers are sweaty, but and we program for 24 hours, and they give us that stuff. So I didn't know how that worked. If they gave you exactly what to do, that's pretty cool.
It sounds pretty similar. Lots of sweat. Yeah.
Lot of shouting.
I would say that parallels pretty well, even with the 100-hour competition, which is what Jashin was involved in this past December. It was a 100-hour competition by the same company, and Jashin decided to come down and do that because it's a whole weekend. It's like 4 days worth of putting together your best possible effort. Unfortunately, we did not turn in our film in time, so that kind of sucked.
But we did get top late entry.
Right.
Which
They
was
picked
actually
us for
pretty cool.
Yeah, and I haven't seen them do that before, so it was really interesting to see them say, "Oh, this was the top late film. Go check them out." Whenever it's really not a prize category that they've ever talked about before. They invented a prize category because they liked the film, and so that was kind of cool. Very flattering to us, and the effort that we put into that.
That's very cool. I don't know. Where should I go with this?
Well, I know, like, for us, because we just started doing videos, our videos are nowhere. Nowhere. Not only in production value, but nowhere in the actual limitations of us acting, because all we do is sit in front of a camera and just spout off nonsense.
Yes.
Then I need to tell you
that's
guys.
that's it.
that might
That's
be.
all we got.
Most times we're not even in front of. I started doing just Lego builds for my kids.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, and I'll just time lapse it, and so I don't even have to be on camera or talk, which is great. That's the best videos to make.
So to see, like, what you guys produce, I mean, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It just seems so daunting and so...
That's honestly probably one of our biggest challenges because none of us, with the exception of maybe Larry, are trained actors, and you can see that especially in our 2013 stuff. We're doing our best, and Ben learned a lot about directing that summer. Like, he is a much, much, much better director now and can pull out some amazing performances out of complete amateurs now.
That's cool.
But it is always a learning process.
And that's
And-
what,
You have to learn to let things go and just, instead of beating yourself up about this performance, just move on to the next performance.
And I have to tell you guys, whenever Jashin came over today, she paid you guys a huge compliment because you guys contacted us, and so of course the first thing we do is Google you and and try to figure out, okay, where are these guys coming from?
All those stories are false. Listen.
And Jashin says, oh no, their production value is really good. Like, I can see this going somewhere or something like you said.
Thank
something
you.
like that.
Yeah.
That was the one thing I like. I was like, if we're gonna do this, let's do it right. Let's get a nice board. Let's get nice mics. Let's make it nice, because we've all heard a lot of podcasts that are not nice.
It makes a huge difference.
Which
Yes.
I mean, and you kind of hit the nail on the head where you were like, it's now nobody's perfect at the beginning. So if you go back and listen to our first podcast,
Our first podcast was horrid.
Even just the first one where we had an awful board that recorded right and left channels.
Yeah.
So Mike was only coming out of the left speaker, and I was only coming out of the right speaker. It was like, this is just really
And it
messed
was,
up.
I feel like
But-
they're sitting to
Yeah.
either side
Yeah,
of me.
yeah, I know.
But even like you guys were talking about your background, you drawing on that for your videos. I mean, Mike's got a background in sound engineering, so I'm sure that helps also with the audio.
It was live engineering, but sure, knowing a lot from
And
live.
I have an extensive background in annoying Mike.
Yes.
So
My
Yes.
only background was running around with a camcorder and making films since I can remember. Since I was like 9 years old, I was running around making films, and when I was a teenager, I made 2 Star Wars fan films, and
Yeah.
I had no idea what I was doing as far as directing. I would boss people around, and if they didn't do what I was asking, I would get very frustrated. And so it was a huge learning process for me to go from that's all I know to something like the steampunk web series where I have to deal with these people for a lengthy amount of time and try to
Yeah.
figure out how to do it.
That would my anxiety would be
He
just.
had to deal with me,
yeah,
is the thing.
Yeah, but actually, in a way, it helped because yes, I got mad at you at first. At first, me and Jashin did not work well together much at all. It was very butting of heads. It was like, oh, you're such a jerk. Well, you're a jerk, and
Poor Kristen had to be the go-between
yeah,
more than once.
my poor wife would communicate between us for us because it was just so like we're both very bullheaded at times. So, but just somewhere along the way, we discovered that wait, no, you are human and you have feelings and you are a person and you are actually an awesome person that I like to hang out with. So let's just drop all that other BS.
Well, I think what really helped was delineating areas of responsibility.
That too.
I think a lot of the conflict was both of us being afraid that the other person was going to take away stuff from the other. At least that was my main fear. And as soon as Ben and I sat down, it was like, okay, no, you're responsible for this and you're responsible for this. Then things became much clearer. The boundaries were clear.
This is where I wanted to go with this, and I didn't know if I was going to bring it up later now. But director, assistant director. So I have no idea about directing or anything like that, other than seeing it or talking about, hey, this person directs something, and I have no idea what they're doing, but I'm like, hey, he must be good because he directed these movies and I like him. You both are like very, I don't want to say opposite ends, but you seem very free-flowing and looking, and you are very, like, very good at
improv-ish versus scripted. Almost,
yes, not
sort of.
scripted, but like the little details that matter a lot to you.
She has a laser focus,
Very
and I'm a
detailed.
shotgun blast.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's very good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And how does that dynamic work? Because
There's a reason why he's the director and I'm not, because he's a lot better with people than I am. Because actors are very delicate, fragile human beings.
he's
Like,
Even if they're not.
neither one of us are really
actors,
good with
they-
people. So.
Right. As soon as you get someone in front of a camera, it's like, oh no, I need you to dial it up a little more, and they immediately burst into tears. And so on the other hand, I treat human beings as things that need to be moved around. And so that makes me a much better assistant director. Responsibilities vary from shoot to shoot, from company to company. So what we say does not necessarily apply to the way other companies do things. But
She's playing chess while I'm playing Hungry Hungry Hippos.
Yeah. So he's over there. He's working with an actor and telling them or asking them to do what he needs for that scene. And I'm over there with the script and the shot list and wrangling extras and trying to set things up for the next scene and trying to make sure continuity is right and making sure that there's not a water bottle in the scene, which I failed at.
It's okay.
I hate that shot. I
It's
hate
okay.
that shot.
My number one question to Jashin on set is what's next? Because
Yeah.
we will set something up, and then I will just go, and then I'll come back and I'll go, what's next?
Yeah.
Because that's where my anchor is. Because otherwise I would just be all over the place and I wouldn't film half of what I need to.
Well, that chess analogy really hits home then, because you're always thinking a few steps ahead. You always have to
Yep.
plan out. You're just mashing those.
I'm just
hands
mashing
down,
the button. I'm just mashing the button, trying to get as many of the pebbles as possible.
Yeah, just in the little shoot we were out there, you were just very much into the little details and stuff. And we've all seen those movies where there's a collar up and then turn the collar down. And just, so, I mean, yes, it's fascinating me.
Let's talk a little bit more about the channel then, because I feel
Yes.
like, I mean, okay, let's go to the list.
Go to the list. Well, while he's going to that, yes, dramas and comedies. I want you to talk a little bit about comedy, because comedy's hard to do. How? I mean, are you writing these, and how do you write them
So,
without just, yeah.
when it comes to writing comedy, it's not just me writing. I have a group of 5, including me. And so we are a group writing unit. And I formed this sort of collective from my main group of people, and I sort of branched that off specifically to write comedy. And it's a very specific set of personalities and people that I know would work well together. And so we sit down, and just like what would happen during the film competitions, where it's like, okay, guys, we have to do this, and we have to do this fast, and here's our seed. Here's what it starts as. And so just through us sort of just chit-chatting or talking about random things, oh, you know what would be awesome? What if this and this, but twist it like this? And then we just go off on this huge tangent to create something out of that. One of our most recent ones was called Ghost Dudes, and we wanted to do something that had to do with a parody of ghost hunting, but we didn't want to be like other parodies, and so we said, okay, well, what if it was like this, and what if it was more about the hunters, these ghost hunters, having really weird personalities and just being these larger than life people, and what if it wasn't shot like a TV show? What if it was shot more like Paranormal Activity, where it's more of like a found footage thing, where you're learning about this and you're seeing the comedy, through I don't want to say reality style, because it is very much more like a found footage kind of thing.
The characters are all comic exaggerations.
Yes.
But as far as writing the comedy, it sort of comes naturally for us, because we have a very diverse sense of humor among our personalities, and so we all come from different comical backgrounds. I'm very much a divide between Jim Carrey and that kind of comedy, and then stuff like Joss Whedon, wittiness kind of stuff. And so I'm somewhere in the middle of that, and then the other writers that I have different experiences and tastes that bring in other perspectives that make it a really unique kind of thing.
Yeah. Do you have something on the list, or I can keep going?
So I was wondering, finding actors. I mean, do you guys? Because obviously you have acted in your own stuff as well, but do you just use friends? Do you source out? Do you ever put an ad in the paper?
When we started out,
I don't
we
think
were
anybody
just
does
a
anymore.
bunch of friends hanging out. So we used our friends and then friends of friends, and they would bring in people. I don't think... And then a lot of it was just reaching out to the various nerdy communities. When we were doing the steampunk stuff, there were a lot of steampunks that were just hanging out, and they were just waiting for someone to come along and be like, hey, here's a cool thing we're doing. Do you want to be in it? We had people driving in from 4 different states for a one-day shoot.
wow.
Like the masquerade scene in episode 3. 4 different states we counted up. and they just
The
showed
train
up.
the train depot shoot too.
Yeah, exactly. Like
was
there were
that
people
guy.
that drove for like 4 hours, 4 to 6
The
hours.
one where he has the hammer
It's the very first episode.
Yeah, yeah.
and he hits the
Exactly.
hammer.
And
Yeah.
that was just because we promised that we would feed them and that they would get to be in our stuff.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, we did the shoot, and then we had a big barbecue and photo shoot, and people just had a blast. So, if there's one thing that we learned in in doing the web series and filmmaking in general, which is sort of our mantra now with doing the comedy, is if it's not fun, we shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
We need to either find ways to keep it fun or only do the things that are fun.
Yeah.
Because if it's not fun, it's not going to come across as something good. And so the reason I feel, just in my personal opinion, I don't think we're really that big or awesome. Other people seem to think that they like our stuff, and that's cool. But
We've also always treated everybody that works with us very well for like a completely amateur, zero budget production. Like, no, we can't pay people, but we try to help out with gas money, or we try to help out with accommodations. We definitely feed them. Like, we are not the type of production that just wants people to give for free. And then the other thing is that we always give them credit too.
Feeding helps a lot.
Yeah.
You bring food,
Definitely.
people will come.
Yeah.
You build it, they will come.
if you cook it, they will come.
Yeah. Yeah, and then in credit is really good. If you treat people right, they will come back. And you were talking about over exaggeration of characters. Your Google poetry is kind of the same.
The Google poetry is not something that is planned very well as far as writing. The only planning that goes into it is the Google poems themselves, and then we sit down here and we talk about, well, what character do you want to be? It's not what character would make this poem really funny. It's what do you want to be?
Where's the? Is that
And-
shot right here?
Yeah, it's
I
that
guess,
that
yes.
black curtain right
Okay, cool.
there.
This is cool. I get to see all this stuff too. Yeah.
Behind the scenes.
So, we have a huge closet full of random costume stuff over years and years of me and my wife doing different costuming things. And so people will come over and I go, what do you want to be? Oh, I thought it'd be funny if I did it like this. And I say, go for it. And then we do a few takes and I would give a couple suggestions here and there. But ultimately, the personalities that come across are born from the actor or the amateurist, if you want to be more technical.
Which is really different from the way you used to direct. Do you want to talk
Yeah.
about how your
Do I
style has
have to?
evolved? I mean, I
Do I
always
have
find that to
to?
be a fascinating story.
Okay. Where do I start?
Well, we can start with Doomsday, let's say.
Okay.
I love it.
This is going into the vaults.
Yes. So way back in 2012, our writer, so in 2012 we put together a video, and it was a collaborative effort among multiple people to basically show, the airship crew saves the world from the Mayan, apocalypse
Yeah.
kind of thing. The Mayan calendar ending in 2012, that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought that, we thought it was funny. So we, the writer put together a very serious story that ends with a joke, and then we went out to a park, and it was the very first time that I was directing since I had been in college, since I had been in high school. Like, I had a big lapse where I hadn't done any filming, and it was a very rough experience for me. We were on a very limited time budget, and I didn't know the characters all that well, and I didn't know the people very well. I didn't know what their capabilities were or what
Were
their
these-
flexibilities were. So
At this time, was it still friends that you were?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and,
so
it was all just friends.
it's just
One of our friends,
never-
Seth, he was the engineer, and he had been written some lines that were very technical sounding, like very Egon Spengler, but it turns out he's more of a Ray Stantz
Okay.
and not an Egon Spengler.
Uh-huh.
So he had trouble really just tripping over these words all the time, and
Electromagnetheric.
electromagnetheric, which we can say just fine. But
In front of the
it
camera?
was if you watch the film, the opening of the film is very intriguing. It's very beautifully shot. We borrowed a camera that was very expensive, and we had a videographer that was very experienced, and we did all these really cool shots out in nature. It looked really cool, and then as soon as people started opening their mouths, it fell to pieces for me. For me, it fell to pieces every time I watch it, because they open their mouths and then it sounds like they're reading, and it sounds like they are not really invested in the reality of their character. They are apart from it. They are not the character. They are themselves playing the character.
Right.
And so it was after Doomsday that I bought a book on directing, immersed myself in it, practiced. I actually practiced directing to get to months later when we did the Cowtown shoot, and I was a totally different person on set.
No.
And I said completely different things.
Practice directing. Go through that. What?
Yeah.
Things to
Explain
say
that.
versus things not to say.
But
So
like
It's
to
a
yourself?
reorientation of viewpoint as
Yeah.
well.
the very first chapter of the book said, if you're directing, don't say this, and don't say this. And my whole world fell apart because that's the only three things I said. And it was I just lost my, oh God, I can't hear. There we are. Okay, sorry. I couldn't hear myself. It was very jarring. One of them was, don't explain emotions. Don't tell people be more sad. Don't tell people be happy. Because
Which is exactly what I would think you were supposed to tell somebody.
exactly
As a director.
from an amateur
Exactly,
standpoint, which
yeah.
is what I would do, is I would be like, okay, be scared, and in my head I would feel like they should know what to do, but what would happen is they would overplay it, or they would underplay it, or they wouldn't know exactly why they're scared. And another thing was, don't use arbitrary measurements. Don't say dial it up to 10. Don't say dial it down a little bit. Don't say pull it back or do that less. Don't
'Cause it's
use
meaningless.
right, because they don't, a person doesn't understand what that means, no matter how much you think you understand what that means. And so it changed from talking about emotions and talking about numbers to talking about situations, to explaining to an amateur that has no idea how to act, here's the situation your character's in. How would you react to that? What would you do? And then they tell me, here's what I think I would do. And I said, okay, your entire goal for this scene is to do that thing. You give them an action. You give them something to do. And if they're focusing on what they're doing, then what they say comes naturally. And I basically threw all the dialogue out the window that was scripted and said, no, that's just a guideline. I have amateurs that have trouble memorizing these things, and I need them to be natural. So here's the idea, here's the concept, here's our goal for the scene, and here's what you need to do. And the things to do could be as simple as make her leave the room, or make her lean in towards you. What would you say, or what would you do to make the other person do that? Focus on the other person, and all of a sudden things started getting more natural. And the best example of this is in episode 4, the Cowtown episode. There was a bar fight. It was the first thing we filmed, and so that was all action, pretty straightforward. But then right after that, the airship crew gets sort of berated by a sky marshal, a lawman. And the first take that we did, it wasn't there. It really just kind of was eh. And then I said, okay, Brian, I just need you to be McTaggart. These people have come into a town, wrecked an entire bar for no good reason whatsoever, and you are the law, and you need to scold them. I gave him an action. I told him to scold. I need you to scold them, and I need you to tell them they're going to jail. So I only have one thing that he really needed to say. And then we filmed it, and it was amazing. It was a complete change from anything he had filmed before, and all of a sudden, he was that character, and he is not an actor.
Did he do that before you? Did he do one take before, and then you telling him, and then he did another take?
Yeah,
Or
it was the second
there was
take.
2 takes.
There was 2 takes, and it was a complete.
Do you have those 2
opposite-
takes? I'd
Somewhere
love to see
on a
those
hard
two
drive
tapes.
somewhere.
It's somewhere in
Okay.
the world
I mean, you
of
don't
data.
have to show it. I
Yeah.
would. That would be
I-
a fascinating thing to see. I'm sure he wouldn't want to
Yeah, don't do
have you
that.
see the bad part of how it.
If I were that
but-
actor, I would rather.
Yeah, I know. I'd rather
let's
want my
keep the
best
good work
shirt.
out there,
Yes, true,
and let's,
true. But from an outsider looking at this, I mean, that would be just fascinating to see the difference between the two. Sorry.
Mike's just-
I want to see all the behind the scenes stuff now.
Well, there was one thing that a different actor, Russell Perkins, did that was interesting, where he would do micro takes because he would sometimes mess up a line, and then he would just rapid fire reset, do it again, reset, do it again, and then another thing Ben would do is like spit out 6 different ways to do that take in rapid succession, and then Russell would do it. So it's like,
Yeah.
That's
But Russell had experience in
That's true.
acting. He played Mr. Coates. He's a man in a white hat that offers the job to the Vindus in at the end of episode 1.
yeah. But there are just different strategies that work for different actors.
I mean, so the regular people, the regular us people out here, we don't ever get to see that kind of atmosphere. So we only see the polished cuts and everything else. And so I don't know. I find it
There's
fascinating.
a lot of
have-
standing around and waiting. A lot of that.
It is.
The one
Yeah.
thing I really liked about it was you guys have blooper reels up, which
Yeah.
to me, anytime I see that in a movie, I'm like, okay, it really humanizes the movie. To me, it feel like it doesn't take away from the immersion of the movie. I just feel like, hey, next time I watch it through, I think of that, and it makes the movie experience better to me. So
That was how we were able to do 16-hour days in
Yeah.
the heat, because we kept it light and we allowed people to joke around. We joked around to keep ourselves sane, and so a lot of goofy stuff happens because we turned it into people having fun hanging out who happened to have a camera.
Yep. And even if you had to sacrifice a couple of shots that you really wanted to get because it's the end of the day, it's better for everybody to leave thinking that it was a good
on a good note.
time
Yeah.
than to leave going, oh my God, and he made us stay all this extra time, and it was so this and that. We've never had anybody that walked away saying that it sucked.
Yeah.
Everybody that's filmed with us has said, oh my gosh, that was so fun. Whenever I stand back and I go, where were you? Because I about died. But it's a different experience for people that are on set versus what we do.
Yeah.
Because our brains are running 1,000,000 miles a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I bet.
I might seem laid back and free flowing, but it's turning like, my gears are grinding.
I have, such anxiety that I don't know if I could, I get so freaked out about all kinds, just saying people's names and obviously out there. And I wanted to go back. You were talking about something right before you talked about the Dresden file imprint on your...
On the glove.
Yeah, during the video interview.
Yeah, you said something about just doing something over and over and just immersing yourself. I know we've talked about that a little bit, but that resonated with me because that's how I am. I am a all or nothing person, and because I will do something and I will do it fully, and that just rings so. When you were saying that, I was like, that is perfect. I mean, to what you were saying, and then the Dresden Files. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love Dresden Files. So and then going from there, and that's why I think we're trying to do in here and everything else, and learning from you guys has just been amazing and stuff along those lines. We didn't,
Practice helps.
It does.
With a lot of that anxiety.
Yeah,
I mean,
it does.
I have a story about that too, but you go first.
My earliest interviews in the J school were terrible because I was stiff, I was terrified, and the camera angles were all wrong. I was standing up, he was sitting down, so he's looking up. It looks like crap. So you just do it over and over and over and over again. I think there's a fairly well-known quote by Ira Glass of This American Life that's floated around social media where this is paraphrased. He basically says, when you start out, you have nothing but taste. That's all you have. You have good taste, and that's the only thing you have going for you. Everything you produce is not going to be up to your standards. It is not going to be in your good taste because it's going to be crap. But the only thing you can do is just keep doing it over and over and over and over until you have the skills to go with your taste.
One of the biggest things, I feel like I'm inconveniencing whoever I'm with. I can do stuff by myself totally fine, but like when I'm with someone else, if I mess up, do you ever feel
Yes.
that?
It's like
Constantly?
I feel like it's Chris Farley on the Saturday Night Live skit where he messes up. He's like, stupid.
I know.
Yeah.
Bad mic.
Sorry.
Like, oh,
Sorry,
man.
guys. Sorry. I should have done something
I
different.
guess the way I get through that is instead of being self-deprecating because that draws attention to the flaw, just treat it like it's no big deal and move on. The vast majority of people are not that observant and will not see or notice what it is you just did unless
Yeah.
you make a big deal out of it.
Yeah.
And there's a huge difference depending on who's behind the camera helping you out, because there were plenty of people in Steamworks and Shadows that had anxiety issues or did not want to be in front of a camera because, it freaked them out. But the thing that kept them on board and got them comfortable was the fact that no matter what happened, I would always say, no, it's okay. Let's do that again. And then I would give them something completely different. So that way they're never trying to recreate what they just did. Always try to give them something different. And that was another thing. That was the third thing that I missed earlier from the directing book was never try to get an actor to recreate something, because all they're going to do is try to play that, and then it's going to come across as played instead of natural. So you always try to give them something different. Never say, that was perfect, do it again. You say, that was really good, let's do something different.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Because else how are you going to grow? If you keep trying to replicate the same thing, you're never going to discover anything new. So
Correct.
Yeah.
I did want to talk a little bit about you guys have been in some film competitions. I know we talked about the 24-hour challenge and several other challenges, but what are some other competitions that you guys have been there? Or maybe competitions isn't the right word exactly for, I don't know.
Projects.
Film. Yeah, there we go.
I think we've got plans to keep going with that company that we've been doing challenges with because they do it annually. So 100-hour competition, 24-hour competition, whatever we can schedule everyone together for. And then we just have our own projects that somebody has a really cool idea and wants to do it, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I have been musing over the idea of film festivals, maybe doing things for those.
Yeah, you've been poking and prodding me like, hey, here's this festival, you should submit something.
Yeah.
Hey, submit to this one. Hey, submit to this one. And I always drop the ball. 'Cause for one reason or another, like I'm like, no, it's not good enough. I don't want to submit it to a festival. But there's one coming up in St. Louis that my friend Mitch pointed me to, and I thought, oh, maybe I could submit Bathrobe Ninjas to that one. Bathrobe
I would
Ninjas
want
was our
to
100-hour competition film.
Clean that up a bit before we do that, though.
Well, we have to slate it differently anyway, so
Yeah,
it's okay.
exactly. Okay.
Anyway, so our first competition film was a local one here in Columbia.
Is that the noir one?
Yeah.
That's my favorite, actually.
Yeah, I really like that one. It was a 24-hour challenge here in town, so it's like nothing is online. You have to like go to this local little place to get your requirements, and then you have to turn it in on a DVD on Saturday at a bar where they're going to show it. And we're like, oh no, but this is exciting. This will be fun, And there's only like 6 of us that were going to film it, and but they did things a little differently. They had a line of dialogue, a prop, and a genre, and not a theme. So you had to fit a particular genre. And the genre was noir.
Which that was right up Joe's alley.
And our writer for the Steampunk series was a noir writer. And so I'm like, dude, can you help us with this? And he's like, well, I've got to work. And I'm like, okay, can we come to the coffee shop and pick on your ear while you're working? And he's like, oh, yeah, okay. So, because he's a barista. So we would go to the coffee shop, and we're like, okay, so here's the thing. Here's the things we have to have. And it was, the line of dialogue was they were only 3 months from retirement, or 3 days. They were only 3 days from retirement. The prop was a plant, and the genre was noir. And so I laid that out, and from the coffee bar, he's like, okay, so there's this story about a detective, and he's like haunted by this case, and I'm just like trying to write as fast as I can, making an outline. And once I had the outline, then me and the cinematographer sat down and kind of cranked out a script, or a loose script to follow, and then we booked a location, which was a hotel. And then we went outside to an alley that we thought looked cool, and filmed this little noir piece. And it was really moving. We felt like it was really deeply emotional. I don't know if you watched that one. It was called Only One Way. and we
Beautifully shot. Oh
Yes.
my
Yeah.
God,
The-
Dustin.
Gorgeously
just-
shot.
the videographer is really awesome. I just tell him the story I'm trying to tell, and I'm like, oh, and I want a close up on like this, and he's like, okay, yeah, we could do that. And then he's like
He's
a
got
human.
steady cams.
Yeah, he's got
for
like steady
hands.
cam hands. Yeah, what she said.
He's a,
And
he's a cyborg.
he is a human steady cam. His name is Dustin, Retro Hawk Productions, and he's just awesome.
Yeah.
And we work together a lot. Anyway, we thought that it was emotional. We thought that it was exactly what noir is supposed to be.
Yeah.
So we go on Saturday. We finish the film. I put it on the DVD. Everybody's proud of it. We've watched it a million times, and we're like, it's perfect. Everything about it. We love everything about it. And we turn it in, and we're sitting in the bar, and they have like seats, and they have a screen and stuff. And they decided that ours was the first to be screened. And we're like, cool, okay.
Yeah.
And so they screened ours first. And everybody was like, oh, wow, yeah, that was cool. And then every other entry was a parody of noir.
Oh,
Every-
I had a feeling there was going to be a
butt
shoe
there,
drop here.
Every other entry was a parody, and they would make puns on the dialogue, and they made it very, it was that kind of it was the very Saturday Night Live-ish, I don't like to toot my own horn, but the production quality was not as high as ours. We have the better equipment, and we
Do you
know how to use it.
Why?
Um,
They were.
no, I have no idea. But
Well, I imagine that seems
what-
like sort of a challenging genre. So I imagine the default for that is
Just try to be
comedy,
funny.
parody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they screen all the movies, and as they're screening each film, the judges, who are they either teach at the university for film, or they are they've done a lot of short films themselves and are kind of known in this area kind of thing. And I started to realize did I walk into a close-knit community? Because it kind of looks like everybody knows everybody
Yeah.
except for us. We are like the new guys. And I also noticed that the bar kept serving drinks to the judges. And so with each parody, apparently it got funnier and funnier.
Oh,
And the
man.
film that won was the last film that screened. And they decided to make a pun on the dialogue. The guy held up 2 bicycle tires and said, "No, I don't have the bike because it was 3 days from retirement."
Oh wow.
And I was like, really?
Wow.
And they completely dismissed our film. We didn't place. We didn't get an honorable mention. Absolutely nothing. And we haven't done that competition since. I don't like to talk bad about the competition because I'm sure it's different every year. But they do their thing and they have fun with it. But I'm a completely different kind of filmmaker. And
Yeah.
so I needed to find a competition that would sate my
Yeah.
desire to be in competitions. And so we did a 100-hour competition in the winter. Then we did a 24-hour competition from the same company the following spring. And then that following winter, just this past December, me and Jashin worked on the 100-hour competition and made Bathrobe Ninjas, and it was our best to date. It was definitely our best efforts as far as AD, editing, acting, just everything and especially story coming together. We felt very, very proud again. Like we got to that point again, how we felt when we made Only One Way, that we were like, this is awesome. This is our thing.
I
And then,
am actually proud to show it to people.
yeah. And then we got some recognition for it, which is awesome. And even if we didn't get recognized, everybody we show it to just loves it. And so that's recognition enough.
Yeah.
But it was,
But it'd be nice to get some real.
Well,
Well,
yeah,
yeah, I mean,
you know,
there's this perception that when you're doing art, you should be doing art for art's sake and all of this stuff. But like, no, feedback is good, compliments are good, validation is great. That is, and if that is your reason for doing it, I totally understand, because that is why I do it. I create so people can compliment me.
Yeah, Jashin could tell you I need constant validation all the time.
Yeah.
Like, Jashin, is this okay? Yes, we're fine. We can move on now. Okay.
Real quick, we're at 44.
Okay, real quick question then. In the noir film, once again,
Are you-
what's the title?
Only One Way?
Only One Way. Yeah, I had it just a second ago
It's
too,
okay.
and I know it too. Was that CGI smoke? I'm just curious because in the shot with the gunshot,
yeah.
Gunshot.
and the smoke billows up, and literally I looked over at Mike and I'm like, "Is that CGI? Like, did they throw CGI in there?" Or
So it's a real smoke effect that is
Okay.
composite.
Okay,
So it's a real smoke effect
Okay.
that's on a black screen, and then you screen out the
Screen it.
black,
Gotcha.
and so it just leaves the smoke behind. And then you do a little bit of motion tracking, so it stays with the camera, so it looks more natural.
Either way, it looks really good. It's just literally, I was like, man, that's awesome. Like,
Yeah, it was that little effect
Really
that I
good
knew I could
throwing
throw
in,
in there.
yeah, that's
I
good.
was editing like a wizard on that Saturday morning. Like after we'd shot it, I had maybe 4 hours to finish it. So I'm just like, go.
We wrap this up.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Unfortunately,
We could probably talk for like 3 more hours.
yeah.
You
Well-
can edit this down, can't you?
Do you want to? Do you want to do one more?
Do you want to keep going?
20 more, 30 more minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, I
okay.
don't care.
Whatever.
Okay.
We're just
Like
we're just
this
gonna
is
hit
not
some food
live,
afterwards.
so you
cool.
can just edit it down.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you guys don't have to go back to Kansas City right away, we might hit up Steak and Shake or something.
Well,
Yeah, I love me
Like,
some steak
That
shake.
is our
They're
traditional.
not there, or they forgot, or they,
The-
or if this is a but we'll just go find a bar somewhere. We'll just hang out. That's all. Just to enjoy.
Yeah, there's
No one can hear you. But
there's a story to Steak and Shake.
okay, we'll do another one.
Yeah.
So we are
Let's-
going to be at Planet Comic Con. You guys are going to be at Planet Comic Con. Right? Yes.
Yes.
This is where the anxiety's like, right?
Are
what?
they?
Are we
Where
doing?
am
what-
I?
what-
We're,
what are we
we're just
doing?
gonna screw
Oh,
with you and just give you different answers.
Is
every
this an
time.
outro?
Oh man.
Where am I?
Oh man.
You've stepped into the mirror
Yeah.
universe.
May 20th and 22nd. What else do we got? A billion things. At username nerd on Twitter. You can.
YouTube
We
channels.
have a new phone number 913-717-nerd, and you can leave a message there and be on air. If you want to leave a message and not be on air and just show us out, you can do that too. Comments at
Doesn't have to
username
be
nerd.
negative. They could
Sometimes
just
you.
call me positive.
Yeah. We never get the negative ones. That's the problem. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
What else? We never.
YouTube channels. Talk
Oh
about the
my
new
gosh.
YouTube channels and-
So what we have done with the YouTube channels, we have grown. We went to, in a span of 2 months, we grew over 200. But we were finding that we had so many different kind of genres of stuff. We would put out a comic book summary, and we would lose people for the news segment. And then we'd put out news, and we'd lose people for the board games and Minecraft. So what we decided is to split those channels up, which was fun. Very fun.
Yeah. Not for me. I didn't
Not
do it.
you didn't
it
do
was
it.
fun for you.
And we split those up. So now we have specific ones we're talking about. So we have username nerd news, username nerd comics, username nerd games, and I think we're going to do one called username nerd toys.
Yes.
Which
we talked a little bit about
We
it.
talked literally 5 minutes before we
Yeah,
got here.
We shouldn't have said it on air.
We shouldn't have, but we're going to. And so we might do some Lego builds there, and maybe some
Reviews or
Not
maybe
gonna
even
say-
unboxing.
grown-up toys, not
Yeah, don't say
don't say adult toys. But like
not adult toys.
There's an
No, no,
audience
no.
in that, you
No,
know.
no, no.
there is an audience in that. But like maybe some remote controlled airplanes and who knows?
knows?
I don't know.
Collector's items.
Fun
There you
stuff.
go.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
collector's
yeah.
items too as well. We don't know what we're doing with that channel, but it's been fun, and I'm rambling way too much about this.
We have a
Anything else?
YouTube channel also.
Oh yeah, you want to guys? Yeah, go for it.
So you can find us at
yeah.
youtube.com/user/Brass Engine Productions. You can also find us at brassengine.net, and our YouTube is connected there. And you can find us on Facebook at Brass Engine Productions.
And yes. Yes,
do we
never
have?
mind. I was going to just promote a bunch of your. Go there, listen to the next one because I want to talk about all. I got to talk about all your playlists. So, but go there now and then check out everything and then come back next week because we'll be talking more about that.
Yes.
Anything else?
I'd say stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.
Okay, stop. Don't go to the next YouTube video or channel or skip or don't do anything. Real quick, 5 seconds. We have 3 different channels. Please subscribe to them. Username Nerd News, Username Nerd Comics, Username Nerd Games. We have separated them out into 3 ones. Choose all of them or just one to subscribe to. You'd love it. I promise you, we'll give you great content. It'll show up in your feed. You'll love it. Just real quick click. It doesn't take but a few seconds. You'd be awesome. Thank you. I mean, you're really awesome. Thank you.